On the
This
right-hand side,
conference will
Sarah,
now be recorded.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Croydon section. Yes, I'm Richard Cradock. I'm the commercial manager at Geismar UK. It's infuriating that you can't talk to people, and all I can do is talk to my screen. So I hope you enjoy the next half hour or so. And for those that don't know Geismar, this is why I've titled it as we are. We're a worldwide partner that you may not know about. So let's have a talk about Geismar. And why can't I go to the next screen? Okay, so we might have to. I'm waiting for the next screen. Apparently it's a bit slow. Okay, so that's moved. It's a slow bandwidth today, so you'll have to bear with me. Might take longer than half an hour. So about Geismar. So we were formed in 1924. For those of you know your history of railways, obviously after the Great War, there was a desolate land in Europe, and it was the advent of the rebuilding of the trains, and a certain Lucien Geismar saw an opportunity for providing tools, mechanical tools to the railway administrations as they were rebuilding. So we've been in existence 97 years now, and we've got the experience, the expression, and the expertise for helping out in over 130 countries around the world. If you do a bit of digging through Google, if there's a railway administration in a country, we've either got a presence there or we've got an agent there. So we think we're well established, and we are truly a railway only company. We can supply you anything and everything from a rail thermometer right up through to an overhead wiring train, as you can see in that picture. We get involved in construction of the railways, renovation of the railways, maintenance of the railways. And we've got best practices in infrastructure, superstructure, regulations. As I just said, we've got a full range of equipment. We provide an efficient turnkey solution, and we can even provide you with innovative tailor-made solutions for your challenges. One of my questions as I travel around the world is, what are your challenges today? They might have been different last week, and they will be different next week, but always, what are your challenges? So as you can see there, a map of the world. After sales interventions, so we've got people in all the dark blue countries, either as a subsidiary, a workshop, or as an agent. So we like to think we've got most of the world covered in terms of our people and our presence and assisting railway administrations around the world. Our engineering and manufacturing capacity. We've got 7 factories in Europe and the United States, 5 of which you can see, 6 you can see there. 5 in France, 1 in Italy, and 1 in South Carolina in the US. We took the decision to make a manufacturing plant in America because of the Made in America. Donald Trump and his administration felt that everything should be made in America. So we've actually gone a step further and introduced a factory where we can take components, ship them to America, and then build the final product for your challenges. And there's a few of the instruments there. So we've got rail vehicles, road rail vehicles, fixed welding plant, attachments for KGTs, pure rail vehicles, either axled or bogies, developments in track laying, machinery, and then we get down to hand tools as well. So we like to think that we can offer you everything that you might need for constructing renewing and maintaining your railway administration. So there you go. Overhead line train, stressing kit, track measurement for your maintenance. Outside of the UK, we get involved in ultrasonic equipment through trains, interesting projects in Africa and Morocco, KGTs, which is our version of the road rail vehicle. As an OEM, we don't take a construction digger and put rail gear on it. We manufacture the whole product. And then top left there is a rail welding head. So we do rolling stock, tracks and turnout manufacturing equipment, road rail, catenary, stationary equipment. We measure and control equipment, digital track gauges now, ambers, diamonds, garnets, you name it, we can make it for you. Machines for looking after sleepers in terms of connecting the rail to the sleeper and their fastenings, and also products for the rail. There you can see the disc saw in the bottom left. And where are we now? We're into April. So by June, we will be introducing our Activion, which is a battery electrically powered range of portable equipment, lightweight motor trolleys, road rail vehicles, which we've already got by mode in existence in the US, track motor cars and measurement systems. We are actively involved in the lithium ion and the bigger Let's Have a Green Railway innovations. So we're moving forward with electrically powered range. Green Geismar, that's where we're going. And there you can see some of the partners that we work with worldwide, the various administrations and contractors of various countries that we work with. From Italy, Spain, JR, Japan Rail, CRCC, which is the Chinese authority, Amtrak, BNSF, which is another American railroad operator, Infrabel, which is the Belgian Railways, SNCF, which you'll know is France. So we like to think we work well with the different administrations, and of course Network Rail centre right. So let's have a look at some of the selected projects that we've been involved with. This is the Bourne End build area. So for those of you that are outside of Croydon, Bourne End is an area on the West Coast Main Line, just north of Hemel Hempstead. It's a 4-track railway. Network Rail and Balfour Beatty then approached the farmer and leased a very large field from him for a year. And there you can see Geismar equipment, lots and lots of Geismar equipment, both remote control operated and manually operated machines. And this was all going through this window, through the overhead stanchions, to install 6 SGV 28 crossovers during an Easter blockade. It was a big project, very intense, very intensive, very complex. Lots of Geismar machinery, lots of gear-offs, but a very successful project for everybody. Every now and again, Mother Nature has its way with the railways, and everybody's heard about Dawlish. Not so many people heard about the Dover Seawall project. Now, with the PEMs and LEMs, as well as installing switches and crossings, we can also do long lengths of plain line. With the amount of machines we've got at the moment, a long welded rail, as you'll all know in the PWI, can be up to 216 meters long. And that's just the amount of machines we've got to install a 216 meter long welded rail. And you can see here the sunshine it was beautiful weather. It was quite cold, but here we are busy installing plain line into the, I cannot remember the tunnel, I'm sure someone will tell me later, but along the Dover Seawall project, and that was in conjunction with Costain. Bringing you up to date, this is Bristol East Junction, and this was Boxing Day 4 months ago, and we're getting ready to install the last S&C panel that we were contracted to install. It's getting late in the afternoon on Boxing Day, but we're still there, we're still installing track. And as you're looking at that picture, you're looking towards Bristol Temple Meads for the eagle-eyed people. And if you were able to look behind you, there would be a Kirov crane installing track for about a quarter of a mile behind, working up towards us. So again, lots of big plant and equipment on site, installing lots of new track for this scheme, which incidentally is still going on. There's still more track to be laid. So just 3 weeks ago, we were at Brent Cross, which is on the Midland Main Line, right at the bottom of the M1. So rather than just switching crossings or plain line, we can do both together. And as you can see in this picture, we've got a closure panel, a crossing panel, and then 80 meters of plain line, all welded up, ready to go in to be installed on the Sunday. This was the Thursday morning when we got there. We delivered the kit. We had a few issues, but by the Friday, Volker Fitzpatrick piling team turned up and said, "What are you going to do with those lems, Richard?" And I said, "We're going to leave them there till Sunday." And he said, "Could you move them, because the piling starts tomorrow morning for the new station at Cricklewood." Okay, we'll do that. So we had to do a panel lift, get this big panel up in the air and sat on the lems, where it sat for 48 hours before we installed it on the Sunday. Again, an interesting project, brings its own challenges. And there you can see, piling starts tomorrow, can you move the lems? So we got the lems underneath the panel. For those that you don't know, or that don't know, a lem is a French acronym, and it's Lorry Élevateur de Motorisé, the 3 words there, LEM. And the machine on top that does the lifting and slewing is a PEM, P-E-M, Portique Extensible de Manutention, and that translates into a portable handling gantry. So as you can see, a day later, the sun was out, it was a lot warmer, and we installed successfully on the Sunday afternoon. Any eagle-eyed people, this is an F24 turnout. There were 4 of them to go in to form 2 crossovers on the western route, and this is down at Uffington. And yes, you could see the White Horse from where we were. Because of the stanchions carrying, we were able to build one of the turnouts, but not the remaining. We put 2 turnouts in on the down main one weekend and then the up main the following weekend. But because of the positions of the stanchions, we could only get 1 complete turnout in at a time. So we put 1 turnout in and then came back to put the other turnout in large pieces. As you can see to the right of that picture, there are various panels that will get lifted and then walked in onto the track and then installed. Looking at that picture, the installation is some 200 meters to your backs as you're looking at that picture. Preparing to fill the gap. It's interesting. Sometimes you arrive and there are various ways that you can install or fill the hole. You can walk, trolley, walk. You can walk out and install on temporary track. This time this is a walk, trolley, walk, and we arrive on site and someone's left a sleeper in the hole. Obviously, we can't put the panel in while that erroneous sleeper is in the way. So we managed to get a picture before they took the sleeper out, just to show you that the challenges that we come up against sometimes. As you can see in that picture, the legs have been extended. So what will now happen when we are ready to install is that the panel will be lifted, the lems will go out from underneath the panel will be dropped on the floor, not dropped, lowered to the floor, and then it will be walked into the hole. Another alternative is to install on temporary track. Temporary track, auxiliary track, call it what you will. In my mind, there was no reason to install this on auxiliary track because there's a road to the left, as you can see, that we could have just walked off. But this French contractor wanted to use auxiliary track, and so here we are, arriving on the auxiliary track, ready to put the legs out onto blocks to support the load. And again, we lift the panel up, the lems drive out, we lower the panel, then the auxiliary track is pulled clear and the panel dropped into place. This was one of the longest ones we've did. This was a GVS lead we installed at Stafford on the West Coast Main Line diversion. Sorry for the quality of the picture. I only had my phone, not a camera. But again, this was a very big GVS 28 turnout. And there we go. We've got it in position and they're now filling up and putting G44s in by the 100 behind it. We can also do double junctions. This is at Inverkeithing up in Scotland, just north of the Forth Bridge. As you can see in the two PEMs, we were able to carry an awful lot of closure rails. Well, they're 60-foot rails, they're not closures, they are 60-foot rails, along with a short plain line panel. And that's going down towards the bottom of the picture to be installed and carried in. Now, we weren't able to put that all in one piece. As a double junction, you'll get two turnouts and a fixed diamond. And we could look, here's the fixed diamond panel. PY designers, we've got shrouds on here, so you've got some parts of it are modular, some parts of it are not. This is every other one, was the shroud was on in the forefoot of every other bed through the turnout into the diamond. Interesting one. That caused quite a lot of conversation last week when I presented this to Chester in North Wales. And some of the new machinery that we've got coming into the UK. This is currently the system in France. This is you able to install track without the use of temporary track. What we've got here is a tracked lem, and it's called an LMC, which is lorry motorized, and the C is for, you guessed it, crawler. LMC. We still need to be able to, the eager engineers amongst you will say, well, how do you get into the hole? And so we'll look at the next picture, and there you go. Because obviously you cannot put large weights on the ends of sleepers. You run the danger of snapping the sleeper. So what this panel allows you to do is bring its own little piece of temporary track, which you can see in the hole, lowers it down. The machines then move forward, and it's rail on rail, and then the tracks for the LMC then elevate the panel through a cam lock, and then we can move forward into the hole. And again, with the correct amount of equipment, you can put in large turnouts. We are the only administration in the world that have crossovers. Everybody else has a back-to-back turnout to form a crossover. And then someone will say, Balfour Beatty are doing it in the US of A. Yes, but it's an English invention. Some interesting projects. So I'm out of the UK now, we're into Portugal. We've been in Portugal since the 50s with lots of sales and several dozen draisine. Draisine is another word for a motor car, track motor car. And as you can see, these two are axle variants, but you can have a platform and a crane. You can have just a crane as a motor car. You can put them up in tandem, so you've got all sorts of versatilities to do all sorts of interesting projects. A lot of our, in the last few years, a lot of our sales have gone to private contractors. Again, they've 8 PEM-LEM sets to a company called Neopool. We've also managed to sell them a VCP, which is the top right picture, and a tamping unit, which fits onto a road rail excavator. So again, an interesting range of equipment from the Geismar group that we've given to contractors to enable them to do their job more efficiently. Another contractor, Moto Angil. There's a KGT in the top right, which you can put your tamper on. And then we've got various lightweight track motor cars, inspection trolleys that you can put ultrasonic equipment in. You can just move people from site to site quickly and efficiently. Or we have transportation track motor car with a crane fixed to it. That's the bottom right, it's the VMT 438. Again, all Geismar manufactured kit. And then down to impact wrenches, nut runners, saws, profile grinders, weld head removers, weld shears. Again, this is really where you go back to 1924, where Lucien Geismar saw that people were trying to do things by hand, and he saw the opportunity to stick a motor on a nut runner and bring the first nut runner into railway administrations. So for track construction, this was a project in Morocco from 2014 to 2017. 200 kilometers of high-speed line between Tangier and Casablanca. This involved the supply of welding equipment that, because of the nature of the country, hot and dusty and horrible, lovely to take a holiday, but you don't want to live there and work there. So the requirement was that the welding head, the grinder, and the press should all come in a container. The containers would be laid in a line, and everything would go through the container to minimise the impact of the external atmosphere. And the one at the bottom, that's an interesting piece of kit. It's a tracked long welded rail installer. So you had a long welded rail train would turn up in Morocco. They've got 432 metre rails, so double the length of what we install in the UK, and somehow you've got to get a 432 metre rail in position. So because it was a new build, this allowed the contractor to get all the sleepers out in place. The rail head was at one end. The long welded rail train would arrive on site, and this machine at the bottom, which is STR, again, it's an acronym, Système de Tirage de Rail, system for pulling rails, and it allowed you to offload 2 432 metre rails at a time on a series of ramps and rollers to get the rails in place. There you can see, there's the welding plant in the top left, and if we go back to the STR, you can see it actually pulling out the 432 metre rails, and we were able to achieve 3.5 kilometres of track in one day, which was pretty good going, and still is pretty good going. Those with eagle eyes will see that the contractor is Colas. So they have a French, Colas being a French company, obviously, and Morocco being a French dependency. And then if we go up to the welding plant, We trained 25 local staff in the know-how and the transfer of the welding plant. And over that 200 kilometres of track, there were 19,000 welding operations, able to make 10 long welded rails, 324 metres a day, and 2,240 long welded rails were manufactured. It says 324. It's actually it's a typo. It is 432. Renewal, renovation and inspection. So, a big beast, OLE, renewal of catenary infrastructure. In the last 2 years, we've supplied 2 high output catenary renewal trains, as you can see in the picture below. And France is an interesting country because it has 10,000 kilometres of what you all and I would call conventional OLE, overhead line equipment at 25 kV, but it also has 6,000 kilometres of 1500 volt DC catenary. Bit of a beast, but there we go. But with our new train, we were able to replace a cantilever every 10 minutes and put a new catenary post in every 17. So, excuse me, efficiencies. And again, this is working with the customer to achieve what the specification requirements are. And we designed this, proposed it, went to tender, and won the tender on the output of this train, and it's been very successful. We've got 2 out there working now. Increasing mobility and safety. Well, for those of you that may have seen the PEMs and LEMs down the bottom there, they used to require a man to operate the machines, to move them. Everything now is remotely controlled operated. So we've nearly got rid of the requirement for working at height with them. We've even installed ignition key setups on the sides of the machine, so you can just walk up and start the machine from the lower side of the machine, rather than having to climb up onto the footplate to start them up. The top picture is a PWP, and that's like it's a mighty PEM, and it was designed for the use of unloading switch and crossing panels from tilting wagons. It's a big beefy machine. We haven't been able to get them into the UK yet, but I would like to. Network rail. So we were lucky to win a tender to supply network rail with 25 road rail vehicles with lifting cradles. As we won the tender, we were asked, could you actually supply 50? Because Network Rail wanted all the vehicles to be to the same Euro 6 spec. So we said, yes, we can do that. And it actually ended up as 58. So there are 58 vehicles to a Network Rail specification that were supplied. It was an interesting and fraught tender to supply, but we got there on time. Let's go on to little trolleys. Track measurement, ultrasonic inspection trolley. Sperry have kind of got ultrasonics tied up in this country because they provide a service arrangement that we cannot. We have ultrasonic equipment, but we don't provide the service contract that Sperry are able to. But as you can see from there, we can provide horizontal alignment, longitudinal profile, curvature, twist and warp, cross level, gauge, and ultrasonic testing, all at 20 kilometers an hour. Track geometry, you can go a little bit faster, up to with rail scan, you can get up to 50 kilometers an hour. So again, different administrations, different requirements, and we hope that we can whet your appetite for those people that are still working. That actually, oh, let's give Geismar a call, see what we can do. So if you want any more information, wait until the next slide, well, the last slide where you've got my contact details. Please get in touch. An interesting project for Belgium was to design this 4-axle track motor car for Infrabel. Infrabel are the Belgian administration. We've currently supplied them 3 for ETCS certification, Eurobalis Level 2 and TBL1 system checks. Again, it checks the high-speed network to EN 14033, and it all complies with UIC, EN and AAR standards. And then on the right, you can see the amount of vehicles that since we started with Infrabel, it's grown exponentially to the numbers to the right there, where we've managed to supply vehicles to this number of administration stroke contractors. And the bottom picture just shows you where you've got ETCS, you've got ERTMs, ETCS driving, and other things that other administrations want to measure. Renewal of the maintenance vehicles. In Germany, they have a maintenance vehicle fleet used for the transportation of personnel and equipment. We supplied 50 motor cars of the newest generation for the repair and maintenance of the railway lines, and these come up for renewal, much like we have the RIS, I'll call it an MOT, the standards that if you get an RECC certificate, it's a 7-year certificate for plant and rolling stock. Local partnerships that we have around the world. Russia, we were very lucky. We think lucky in inverted commas. They wanted 212 KGT road rail loaders in 2 years. We had to get a lot of factories making KGT parts so that they all could be assembled and then shipped to Russia inside 2 years. So we made over 100 a year for over 2 years, using local manufacturing and assembly, skills transfer, on-site training, homologation, after-sales support. Absolute colossal amount of work required to get these KGTs to Russia, and they all wanted different attachments. They didn't want just 212 KGTs as in the top right. They wanted buckets, they wanted clamshells, they wanted ballast brushes, they wanted magnets, they wanted tamping heads, excavation buckets, etc., etc. Great contract to win, but you've got to deliver it. And then again, by good logistical planning, we were able to deliver on time. And we like to think that through those deliveries, we offer flexibility as a service. In the UK, we have a large rental fleet for Network Rail and its contractors. In France, they've just started a road rail loader with tamping module, and they've also got the VCP in the bottom picture. Geismar started out in hire in the early 80s in a place called Blair Atoll in Scotland, with a early variant of the PEM and LEM, and it was called the PUM, P-U-M, where the machines were brought in. They're great, but British Rail didn't want to own them. So Geismar said, okay, we'll hire them to you. And that's been the case since the early 80s. And in the last, I'll say 7 or 8 years, various other Geismar subsidiaries or agents have said, why can't we get involved in the rental? So they're dipping their toes in the water with manufacturing and hiring out various pieces of equipment around the world now. England and France are the two big ones at the moment, but we're working with Spain, we're looking at the US. But to have that flexibility allows you to supply to the customer what they want ultimately. We also do recurring maintenance. So as I touched on earlier, we've got a maintenance contracts for a fleet of road rail vehicles with SNCF, the French administration, and Slovenia road rail vehicles, loaders and motor cars. We've trained 3 of their technicians, but we've still got the machines to look after for them. So yes, we're a manufacturer, but we also look after you once you've bought your kit. And in essence, that is it. Thank you very much for listening. There you go. For further information after the meeting, please call me on my mobile number. Excuse me, is 07715163451. Or please do drop me an email on r.cradock@geismar.com. Note the spelling of my surname. Lots and lots of people get it wrong, but I'm a single D in Cradock. There you go. Thank you for listening. Back to...
Yeah, thank you very much, Richard. Very interesting indeed. Right. No questions have appeared on the chat, but I'm sure plenty of people have questions. So if you'd like to turn your screen on and microphone and wave at me, I'll give you a chance to ask a question.
Okay, so how do I do that?
Martin.
Hi, Richard. Thanks very much for the presentation. I'm currently working on a tunnel examination contract and wonder if you have any plans for electric MUPE type vehicles that could be used for tunnel examinations, given the issues we have with diesel emissions and reducing those, particularly in confined spaces like tunnels.
In the US, we've got bi-mode vehicles out there now, and we hope to be bringing something in if we can generate the interest in the UK. I'd love to. If you want to drop me an email on r.cradock@geismar.com, I'm sure we'll be able to take that further.
Yeah, we'll do. The contract's about to end, so there may be a different person involved, but I will certainly drop you an email. Thank you.
Okay.
Right. Stuart Quarry has put a question in the chat. How fast can the infrared inspection car travel while working?
I believe it's up to 120 kilometers an hour.
Right. But I personally was interested in your electrification factory train. Does it really work that much better than the one that Network Rail got for the Great Western?
Let me get you some figures and I'll get them sent to you.
Yeah.
We believe it does. I mean, it's all down to planning, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all down to planning.
Yeah. I think Network Rail got their one working as they wanted in the end, but it took a bit of time to work it through. Yeah.
Right. How can I get rid of my slide?
Sorry, Richard?
How can I get rid of my slideshow so I can see you?
Yeah, at the bottom, where you got the green screen, if you click on that, I think it turns it off.
Stop sharing. Oh, okay. Stop sharing the screen. Oh, here we go. How's that?
Yeah. I'll turn my screen on as well, actually. So I'm doing the wrong thing. Camera. Right.
Absolutely.
Anybody else got any questions? Because the range of equipment that Geismar seem to have has grown and grown and grown since I first heard about them all those years ago when I started on the railway in 1972. So there must be some more questions about all this marvelous kit. You say you do a lot of hiring. Do you supply operators as well with it, or do you just train contractors?
We can provide operated and non-operated plant. The problem being now is that we've just the new PEMLEM fleet is so new that we haven't trained anybody except for we use XYZ rail, was formerly Stobart rail. Yeah. So we use their operators for operating the kit. So we still provide supervision, but it's a dangerous game to hire a non-operated plant because you don't know what state you're going to get it into.
Have you thought of actually taking on maintenance contracts for any of the rail administration?
We're in the early stages of a framework agreement with Network Rail as well. Yes, we've got the maintenance in France, Slovenia, as we discussed earlier, or I discussed earlier. So there's always potential for maintenance agreements.
Right. Right. Alan Chalmers reminds you that it's Shakespeare Cliff is the name of the tunnel at the Dover seawall.
That's the one. Thank you, Alan.
Yeah. I mean the Shakespeare Cliff and all of that line does come up on our meetings down this part of the world quite regularly as well. There's such a lot. All right. Colin, you've got a question.
Yeah, Richard, thanks very much for your talk. That was great. I first sort of got in contact with you because I know you provided the PEMLEMs for us at Felden probably six or more months ago, and I'd never actually seen them before. I remember seeing them all lined up with all the lights, and they just looked like some sort of transformers, especially once they sort of raise the legs up and stuff like that. So it's really an impressive bit of kit. So I was just wondering, just in general, then, I'm assuming you're like, who would be your biggest market in terms of countries then? Because I assume you're doing a lot with the PEMLEMs in the UK, and you've got a lot of facilities in France. Would France be sort of your main? Like, do you supply sort of all the equipment? Because I'm assuming in the UK you supply maybe the PEMLEMs, a few other bits, but who would be the biggest market for you?
Yeah, I've yet to go on an SNCF site where there isn't a Geismar product on site of various sorts. America is a big market, and there's I mean, we've got 10 salesmen that cover the whole of the US, so that is a big market. I would say mainland Europe, the SNCF, DB, Infravel, they're probably our biggest market, and we're a French company, so Africa, the emerging nation.
Is there quite a lot of competition then in the UK, or because I'm assuming then you've sort of got the monopoly almost then in France if you've so much of your equipment there, but do you have quite a lot of competition then in the UK?
There's a lot of competition in the UK now, especially with Network Rail putting their small plant maintenance out to tender every 5 years. So it's gone round from A plant to Speedy. It's currently with Torrent, and again, that's good for the industry because they want the biggest return on the cheapest products. Is it the right tool? Because a lot of people are having to go elsewhere, and they'll come to us and say, actually, we need to buy this because it's not in the Torrent fleet, or A plant haven't got any, or Speedy haven't got any. So it's interesting times in this country.
Yeah.
Does that answer you, Colin?
No, it does, Richard. Yep. Thank you.
Right. Do we have any more questions from anybody? Anybody ready to start asking for some to rent some equipment? Right. In that case, Richard, I'd like to thank you very much for explaining all the vast range of equipment that Geismar now provide. I remember when I started, it was seemed a small specialist equipment supplier which we was still well into the country at the time. But I can see you've grown and grown and got a really good range of the small to medium size plant and equipment, and which has changed the way that we do certain amounts of renewals, because I think with the PUMs to start with, and now the LEMs and PEMs, actually moving whole layouts around at one time with fully coordinated machinery must make a hell of a difference and reduce the chance of people getting hurt trying to do it manually or with cranes. So I would like to call everybody to unmute themselves and express our thanks for a very, very interesting talk indeed. So thank you very much indeed, Richard. And I'd say do come down the pub afterwards, but unfortunately we're not allowed.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you very much, Tim. It's been my pleasure.
Yeah, my pleasure. And Sarah, you might want to stop the recording. People may want to have a bit of more of a social chat now.